Welcome to Real Wake Up. I'm Dean Bell here with Professor Cat Fun and Ronald Gust. Today's movie review is about Planet of the Humans, 2019, directed by Jeff Gibbs and produced by Michael Moore. It's a documentary about green energy. I assume you both watched the film or part of the film. So do you have any comments to start with, you guys?
Well, I can't get over the amount of trees that they're consuming.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're the ones setting the forest fires so they can consume those, harvest those trees. It's amazing. Yeah, it's. I don't see how they figure they're solving any problems. Sounds to me like they're just creating more problems, and a lot more problems. That if they just would disappear. Right now, it looks like the cheapest and the cleanest way to go would be with coal and put scrubbers in. Or go, I hate to say this, but go to cobalt and use cobalt in their plants that they produce energy with. So, cobalt has a half-life of 6 years, but uranium has a half-life of 2 billion years, I guess. There's just a lot of different ways we could go, but too many people making too much money off the system that's in place right now. And I don't know, there looks like there's some new technology where they got these little things that spin around in a circle and produce some electricity. So I don't know, maybe they might be able to make that work. Just my thoughts.
Well, yeah, they're kind of dumbing us down here, keeping us dumbed down with this idea. It's just basically an idea, green energy. It's like climate change, sustainable futures that Agenda 2030 has, sustainable. You know, use these pretty words that make it look like, you know, they're doing something that's with the environment. But actually, like you see in the movie, he's exposing, you know, who's in back of these big ones, like Sierra Club, and all these environmental groups backing them, and they're using the front basically to exploit. They're basically still exploiting the environment, where they could be talking about anti-gravity magnets. Cause and effect energy, Tesla free energy. I mean, there's so many things out there that they really know about that they're not exposing, but it's there and it's clean, and it's the aliens are using these technologies. But of course, we're back in the dark ages with all this stuff. Now, solar would work, but they're not efficient. They could purposely, or they're purposely creating these units that are not efficient, you know, using the cobalt and silicon and all these, you know, mining techniques to create these solar panels when they could be using other things to make them more efficient and not harm the environment. But of course, that's not the case. Just like Ford in the early 1900s, he had electric cars, and they went to petro because of Rockefeller and his investments. So there's always something behind these things that we're not seeing. And at least Michael Moore is helping us consider that there's other things behind what we see in the front. And there always is. You know, basically the systems are corrupt, and they're marketed
you always got a billionaire behind it pushing it, and he's trying to figure out how to put a meter on it. So It's all the same. It all ends up being the same thing. And you're right. There's technologies out there that's hidden, but maybe someday they'll be revealed. I don't know.
Well, they are, but then they get if you go to the patent office, they'll steal your patent, get rid of you. A couple of things I noticed in the movie, they do market, everybody seems to agree upon, is population growth, that we need we need less people. They're using up too many resources and energy. These people.
You're right about that. That's the first thing that just hit me. Is these guys, they're looking for excuses.
Yeah.
And overpopulation is the first one that pops in their minds. They're all sold on that. That's the billionaires talking.
Well, these people that are saying this, let's ask them to be the first volunteers to leave the planet. They could be
There
the
you
first
go.
ones. If there's too many, then go ahead.
Yeah.
Do something about it.
Get on that rocket ship that's spewing all that big blast of heated air and that big fire behind it. And tell us about the atmosphere as you blow it up. Yeah, how about all those airplanes those guys own? And they're just, yeah.
Well, that's what I hear. How many 300 airplanes going to the climate conference there in Europe? These huge airplanes that these leaders, have used or using to go to this climate conference.
Yeah, well, as long as their houses aren't heated and there's no lights, everything's just fine for you or me.
But aren't you the one that said, everybody could fit in the state of Texas, Ron, if, with room, everybody in the world, regarding population?
Everyone in the world could fit into Texas and have 31 feet between them. 7.5 billion people.
Okay. Be a little crowded, but it could be done. Okay.
Oh, if you built up, you'd have no problem.
Okay. And even this idea that there's 7.5 billion, or that's who's really? Can you verify that? Even there may be a lot less. There could be 5 billion. That's something too. Everything is statistics can be altered. We know that. Could be using that as excuse that there's too many people. They could just up the figures, just like the COVID. They're upping the figures. How many people have died of COVID? You really know?
Yeah, I just wonder how many people died of H1N1. What happened to it? It's completely gone.
Yeah,
and you're finding out that the virus that they're talking about is the same virus that they had back in 1918. How the hell did they do that?
Well, Fauci's been working on it long and hard to develop this. He tried it with the Asian flu, SARS, AIDS. He's been working at it, and this time I think he got it right. So.
Well, they've developed 375 or viruses that they've developed since 1987. They've been busy.
Yeah, and it's actually this supposed virus. Well, this pathogen has been patented, so you can look it up. It's a patent office. It's a pathogen meant to get you sick.
I think even HIV has been patented too. I think it was patented around in the 1970s by Gallo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Population is a problem. And they're going to try to do everything they can to thin us out. I would like to see them take the first test shots. And see how they squibble and squabble around.
The other thing they mentioned was the 350. Was it 350? 350 group. Carbon. Trying to get carbon down to 350 parts per million.
I don't understand this battle against. They seem to have to. If they don't have enough enemies, they have to create them. And it seems like this is just another created excuse. It's amazing. At one time our atmosphere was full of acid that came from these volcanoes. Hydrochloric, what's the hydrochloric acid? that they spew out.
Hmm.
Our atmosphere was completely covered with that. I don't know, it seemed like it corrected itself after a while. So I don't know what the problem is.
Well, some people even claim they want the zero carbon, uh, but that would destroy all life on the planet, basically, because, that's what the plants and trees breathe in. So they're playing us, Ron.
Yeah, I think you're right. They just got to keep adding and creating more excuses to pull their little games they're playing.
Yeah, talking about carbon dioxide and how it's really crucial, and the really parts per million in the atmosphere right now is nothing to be alarmed with. I mean, it's normal, and it could use even more, according to some scientists, because it's part of the life cycle here of or organic life here. So to get rid of it or to lower it, methane is a bigger problem, you could say, but there's so much more going on, and they're just trying to confuse us and divide us, and they purposely put these things out there to cause people to argue about things and stress over. So we see that, but fortunately, we're here for people. So go ahead, Peter.
Good. I was thinking sulfuric acid with the volcanoes, but it's probably a number of different things that are causing it. I guess that's a relation to acid rain, generally speaking. And the other thing I wanted to say about the polar view that we, can very easily get into talking from or with. I don't know what they're doing, kind of, or specifics that are pointing at either, let's say, just the oil and gas industry is under control, or using their control overtly to stop solar or stop the improvements. They put that much money into solar panels, and bringing down their efficiency rates, or raising their efficiency rates rather, is a vital key there, which doesn't seem to be occurring at a particularly fast rate, which is curious. And that other context that you shared about our objectivized viewpoint, that is, we could say the we versus they, but also the well, anyway, it's just a lack of integrated integration, which has a main part of that is where the companies are authorizing, or the politic, government, business is authorizing. And this is not an integrated where the best of humanity is being included, and with the third, which is that, let's say, the laws of nature and the real natural environment as an included party in the decision, not a secondary resource party. In fact, like I use this in this terminology where I got a view of the solar Earth, which is one part physical nature and solar, and one part terra, which I guess that would be like the physical, not the physical, a relation to the astral body or the aura of the Earth. And then there's the Gaia terminology, which is, let's say, the more connection with the universal sphere and the whole itself. or at least these are three sheaths like onion rings. And then there is the real whole, whatever that is. I call it Earth, URTH. Anyway, that is a perspective which is almost saying that the nature and the Earth is communicating itself as well. It's a living body, a living thing. And the same with our solar bodies, which we have, and we also have our physical bodies. And the solar body might be our connections with the universal. Okay, all terminologies, but they're not really using these terminologies or this whole perspective, even in terms of each of the parts being part together, even though the parts are all singular of themselves. So I think when Michael Moore comes along and he's projecting this viewpoint that is pretty much the dualistic polarity, or at least he's willing to point out that this polarity perspective exists of the authorities and big business, government, whatever, and then there's the industry of alternative energy, in this case, in the Michael Moore movie case, and their relations too, which are obviously all convoluted, such as when they interview people about what's happening with the environment and what's happening with their particular solar avenue or wind avenue. And I just wanted to jokingly say, related to what Ronald said about these wheels that turn around and they're going to generate energy. I think he's talking about wind turbines, but I'm not sure. The same thing, because you shared with us about the cause and effect energy that the aliens have, and so you're being rhetorical or euphemistic, or do you mean an actual technology that is controlling the cause and effect from that causal plane, or do you mean physically that they have some form of a
we have a technology that works off that principle, karmic principle. But there's so many things like that out there. I mean, we're not exposed to. It's just, and it's purposely done so that we don't have access to it, so they can keep controlling us. But yeah, there's a lot of things out there. Even like you hinted at these these planets. Remember what's his name? This Eckes that went to Saturn in one of his books, and the cities weren't smart cities. They were actually organic. The buildings were organic. They were more than smart, which is lethal, but they're like organic creatures that could heat the house, cool the house, and and then Steve DeWitt in his book, one of his books or his experiences. And then there's the spaceships that can be flown by just your thing. You can tune in and become part of the ship, and you can pilot the ship by just your intent. I mean, just consider all these things that are possible. We're so limited into a one-dimensional view of things that anything you can think of can be possible. You just have to figure it out. And the aliens have this, they're more apt to, they're more technologically sophisticated than we are, not in awareness, but in technology. So they have these things available, whatever it is,
How about the Poe carburetor?
Mm-hmm. Which carburetor?
The Poe, P-O-G-U-E. He's developed this carburetor back in 1936 that you could take the gas and heat the gas up. Of course, back then they had pure white gasoline, high octane. They didn't put the additives in it at that time. And then what he was able to do was heat it up, take it in, transform it into a vapor. The vapor, from gasoline, when liquid, it would expand like 10 times. like 1 gallon of gasoline would expand to 10 gallons of vapor. So he was able to get 200 miles a gallon out of his 1 gallon of gas. And I don't know why, but these guys always got to go to the oil companies and prove to them what they just did. And oil companies will do everything they'll do, anything they can do to sabotage what you just created. Well, anyway, when the oil companies found out about it, they had Lindbergh back in 1937 give a speech how he can't run those radio engines without putting lead in the gasoline because it burns the valves. Well, they found out if you add molybdenum to your steel, it doesn't allow the valves to be burned. It protects them. Well, anyway, they use it for excuse. So 40 years now, we've had lead pouring out the tailpipes of cars. And about 85% of the gas pouring out your tailpipe. And no one talks about the massive pollution from all of that. Just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The oil companies was going to save some money for themselves, but destroy the atmosphere and don't give a damn. Yeah, they used, the government used that whole carburetor on the trucks during the Second World War. And to keep people from learning how to operate or work on the carburetors, they put a plaque that says if anybody messes with the carburetors, they're going to get jail time.
I got one related to the cause and effect and the universal karma field, so to speak, that is personal in that my grandfather promoted the very great violinist Jascha Heifetz in 1917 and brought him, when he came to the United States at age 17, he was immediately went on tour and exceptional, perfect violinist who actually then went to the war sites in World War II and was among the first, if not the first, to do Live Aid charity on the military at the war site for fundraising. And this man then moved to California, lived in Malibu, and he had promoted him an electric car that he had built for himself. And he went to all the celebrities and the people in Los Angeles, which he was in the network with, and wanted to get them in the late 60s to use this get electric vehicles back. He recognized, because back in 1917, electric vehicles were something like 20, 30% of or more of the total vehicles that were available. Unknown fact that we actually were on that road. Yes, it was crushed by the Morgan and whoever else, corporate, the whole huge corporate executive trumpeters that were active in the 1900s, 1910, 20, 30s, building their fountainheads, which is what Ayn Rand's book was about. So now this man comes full circle in my sense, because in the late 60s, which was that time of enlightenment, at least opening my own personal door to, let's say in 1970, the cosmic consciousness, and that's now 50 years ago. What happened was, this was the same time when Heifetz lived in Malibu and was promoting the electric vehicle, because the pollution in Los Angeles, the air pollution in particular, is very bad. And so in about every 30 years, we get a certain kind of a cycle generation or recycle which is, okay, we've got these alternative energies or movements towards freedom. And then the suppression comes again, and the control, and the authorization field steps in and buys up everything. Same thing they did with music, frankly, which music publishing and the ownership and copyrights, and turning the rock stars into financial vehicles, which it's too bad that we didn't recognize that. The 70s, 60s, 70s, John Lennon's and Jimi Hendrix didn't recognize that they were being manipulated and or compromised and being watched by the government. John Lennon, they tried to kick him out of the United States. It just blows my mind. That kind of thing. That in my case, Ronald, when you talk about having your mind blown, well, all my friends have been killed, more or less. I consider that group kind of my original friends. But the thing, I relate this as a cause and effect relation because this is my simulator that I'm experiencing. And we all have one that is this relational field. Michael Moore certainly has one, and he's working with or approaching and trying to be neutral and intelligent, at least, maybe not particularly spiritual or what have you from that point of view of that higher consciousness that he might not consider the cause and effect machine as a vehicle directly, that is, but he will talk about it and see it in action and demonstrate it, at least in terms of presenting it in the film.
What about Prohibition?
Oh, Prohibition, yes.
Yeah, did you know that Ford wanted to use alcohol instead of oil for gasoline?
Yeah, so they created the prohibition to cut
That's
out
right.
the alcohol.
The oil companies created the prohibition to protect their oil monopolies. And that, hell, if you could get some corn, you could make your own gasoline. So that was the war on the prohibition. And the guys that make up the moonshiners, they were at war with the oil companies. This thing is, as long as they can get a meter on it, they're going to make sure that you end up paying them forever.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to choke on the gas, Ronald. That's it. That's the thing. It's okay, we see it, and we're not going to go and try and tell you, hey, go talk to every Tom, Dick, and Harry and say, you know what, this, I do that, I try that, but you can't talk to the people about the issue because they're going to revert back to the authority. They're going to go back to Jesus or the psychological, or they're going to go back to the scientist and or what have you, and look for valuations or revelations through that to defend this position of this obviously seeing this deeply colluded polarity. And yeah, I got that part, but then where we're going, or the new you as an example, using music as a relation because of my own history and nature. And so the new you, is a song, and it is a presentation, but it's not there to present people with, okay, use this and then you're going to become a better musician or a better communicator or educator, what have you. because the purpose is not to make ourselves into some position of authority and or controlled position, as leadership or any of that old-fashioned hierarchy that we are living with and observing all the way down, top to bottom. So we're, instead of becoming a pyramid with just one point pinnacle, it's not. It's a whole itself, and there is no position. So we can't come in and say, here's a technique to throw out the old position because it's no good. What it is no, the only thing is the true reality life isness. And that's, breathtaking, actually.
Yeah.
So
going back to the cause and effect, I mean, that's an agitation basically, right? It's like a friction. So you can harness that just like Tesla harnessed the electricity basically in the air and atmosphere. So these things can be, if you can think it can be done. You can create biosynthetic, like they're doing biosynthetic. You can go organic into techie, like they're trying to get us all the transhumanism movement, trying to get us into the AI and link us with that, part bio, part synthetic. So this could be done. You just need the thought. The thought's there. It could be done. And then I haven't researched this, but the fossil fuel idea, interesting. Another kind of interesting thing they put out there, that fossils create oil, something. They have to drill thousands of feet. That's where the fossils are found. I haven't researched it, but like primary water, my understanding it's a renewable resource, oil, just like primary water. There's a lot of it, and they're just marketing this. We're running out, and we need to do something. So it's an ongoing ploy, making people confused and wondering what to do. And when they do that, they can more so control people. But have you heard that too, that oil is renewable or not? Ronald?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's renewable.
Yeah.
They draw it down, cap the top off, and they come back and it's got oil in it.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what the hell creates oil?
Well, again, maybe
it's created somehow naturally.
Yeah, I haven't gone there.
That secret doesn't seem to get out to us
Some
somehow.
people have researched it. I haven't gone there, but be good for our environmental show. Maybe find that out and bring it to the show.
I think those are top secret stuff, and you're never going to find out. That's like the reason for putting the lead in the gasoline was to defeat the Poe carburetor. Plugged it up.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things like, can you imagine the amount of people that have been killed over these wars over oil? And the Poe carburetor could have stopped a lot of that by just simply using 100% less gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that?
You guys want to summarize anything here? Have a last statement, last comment?
I don't have a summary. The all-isness that we're representing and an entire new language I don't know if I'm going to call it an entirely new point of view or just a complete whole point of view, or being aware of from the whole of all these references that we're providing is very important, and we're centered in the middle and all universal all at the same time. And there isn't anything that can replace that, and there isn't any specialized group or person and savior.
And thanks again for being here. Planet of the Humans, 2019, Jeff Gibbs, directed by or produced by Michael Moore. So this is just showing us that there's lots of things that they're out there to confuse us. But we're hinting at that there's more. We're always hinting that there's more, and we have the cure, that there's more you can do to wake up to what is really going on. But these kinds of documentaries help us to see behind the scenes, because normally people just, if they're watching the mainstream news and being educated in the colleges, et cetera, they're just getting very limited views. So at least people like this, like Jeff Gibbs, putting this out to give people another view. And the more views we have, the better off, we are to be able to wake up to something more. We're always like hinting at more. There's always something more. It's not set, no set way. If you get set, you are in trouble. If you're self-convinced, you're going to be taken away. So always keep it like you know nothing, and work from there so that you're more open to what life shows you. And what we do here at the end of the show is see new you, and that's a connection to something that will show you more. It'll tune you into a connection to life that will show you more, and watch your dreams, pay attention to your hints, your nudges, etc. And we're all on our journey here, so we're just helping each other, support each other. Thanks for being here, Ronald and Professor Catfun. You mentioned a movie for next week. I couldn't find Emerald Forest anywhere, but you mentioned what, Black Stallion or whatever, Peter?
Black Stallion is a beautiful movie. It's interesting. I guess, it could be used in this vein somewhat. There's a whole group. Fly Away Home is interesting. The one where they have the ducks and the girl flies from Canada to North Carolina with the ducks. It's just a beautiful movie, and fun. And she has to step out of her box. The little Anna Paquin, 15-year-old, 12 to 15-year-old. So that's whatever. And there's a certain amount of environmental issue with that, we'll say, psychological environments, and taking care of nature in that. So it's got that as well. Any of those movies. Lost Horizons, another one. Shangri-La, the great book, a 1920s, 30s movie, 1939. I'm finding it very hard to find this movie on any of the new channels. Mm-hmm. They're eliminating these kinds of movies. Siddhartha is another one. Yeah.
Thanks again, Ronald and Pete.
You're welcome.
See you next week.